Get your stinking rat out. It's late night large.
Welcome to a late night large that spat in the Christmas stockings, stuffed the turkey with its own vile seed, and left a particularly pungent Yule log beneath the Christmas tree. Coated in soot from a chimney-related mishap is me, Aaron Bliss. And dropping his drawers at Christmas dinner to reveal his mistletoe G-string is Mike Large.
Evening all.
How are you doing, Mike?
I'm alright.
At this most wonderful time of year?
Yeah, well, it is the most wonderful time of year.
Or is it?
No, not really.
I don't think there's ever been a time where that's seemed more bitterly sarcastic than this year. The year of our Lord, 2020.
Yeah, I mean, I don't really like. Yeah, well, yeah. Look, cool.
I know what you were going to say, Mike. You're going to say, "I don't like Christmas at the best of times," but here we are, both choking down Christmas, like
Bagging on it.
Yeah, like a particularly cremated Christmas turkey, and so fresh from our jolly Christmas special that we did a mere few days ago. We're recording this on the winter solstice. Happy solstice, everyone! And remember the positive things about the winter solstice, which is it's only uphill from here. You know,
the
spring.
only way is up. Except it's not. Go on.
No, listen, Mike. I'm trying to stay positive. All right. It's the shittest year ever. It's the shittest week ever. It's going to be a terrible year next year as well. But there's a lot of people who are really hurting at the minute. And joking aside, we need to try and find some kind of optimism from the wreckage of this cavalcade of errors and just terrible shit.
So is that what we're going to be doing tonight then, is it?
What's that?
Finding some silver linings?
No, of course not.
No.
We're going to be ranting and raging. We're going to be as we should be, Mike. We're the emissaries of the people. We're going to be their voice, just shouting into the ether about how shit everything is. Because I don't know.
Because they need reminding.
Yes. I don't know. I know we're prone to hyperbole, Mike, but there's a chance that this week, this last few days, as in this weekend just gone, and we're speaking on the solstice. It'll go out just after the solstice, but I hope before Christmas. Has there been a worse time? I mean, I know again hyperbole, but it's a snowball effect that all through this year there's been ups and downs and peaks and troughs and lower troughs. And I mean, it's like, I'm not sure you could have had worse news than what happened this last weekend. The only thing we haven't quite got is maybe, I don't know, a plague of locusts. Because, okay, we haven't quite got the confirmation of no-deal Brexit yet. I expect that will happen very soon. But in the meantime, what's happened this last weekend? So the biggest thing, of course, which we're going to discuss first, Mike, is despite trying to make himself out to be Santa Claus, Boris Johnson is now the Grinch.
Oh, man. I mean...
He's officially the Grinch now. He's stolen Christmas.
I don't understand. I don't understand who... I mean, look, as we know, politicians, especially prime ministers, are typically very loyal to those close to them, to their advisors. I guess it works both ways as well, or usually sometimes there's a bit of backstabbing, as we know. But anyway, typically they're kind of more loyal than actually most of us would like them to be. But really, you've got to have a look. You've got to have a look, and you've got to ask yourself, who, if you're Bojo, right? You've got to ask yourself, like, who let me fucking agree to this 5-day Christmas thing? Where are these fucking experts and like medical professionals and like what what you were bollocks, you were bollocks. Do you know what I mean? He's got to be going around just like they mugged him off there. Whoever said, do you know what, Boris? Whether it's his idea or not, if someone's come to him with that idea, sack him. And anyone who said, "Oh, Boris, that's a great idea," yeah, sack him. And just be fucking done with it because you don't need that sort of advice. If Joe Blogs can figure out like, don't know about this 5-day thing, and it would have been one thing for him to do it, and then for things to go through the roof, and then people go, "I would you say?" But to just, I mean, why give people something only to take it away? If you know, with a certain amount of cynicism, as we often have, a lot of the decisions that have been made, you know, let's not pretend that some things aren't just for the greater good, and he's not evil. He's not like a inherently evil person. I don't believe that. You might, but you know, some decisions will be made because they're genuinely the right decision, or they believe they are, or whatever. But that was just dumb. It was always dumb. Was it not?
What?
Was it? Because when you're making decisions, some of the decisions he's making are obviously to help people's opinions. I mean, we said it before. He needs people to vote for him again. You know, and then you go and do something stupid like that. I mean, not only is it stupid, it was a stupid idea, but it hurts him as well. Who's let him?
I think, to be honest, okay. First things first, Mike. I think you've been a bit generous by sort of implying that this was just someone else kind of pushing Johnson to do this. But no. Hang on, let me finish.
Right.
So first, I think that's a little bit. You might be right. But let's say that that's slightly generous to Johnson. But let's say someone did advise him to do it. So the first thing to say is, I don't believe the medical advisors agreed with it. I think they were overruled, because if you notice that when he announced it initially, the first thing that happened was people went to the medical advisor and they said, "We're not sure about this," or we didn't suggest this. I understand why it's been offered, but I don't think it's a good idea at all. And then like the British Medical Association, all these kind of people came out and said, we might need to rethink this. I mean, you know, if we had a zero COVID strategy and we were getting close, by all means, 5 days over Christmas is a nice treat to reward people. The fact is we were always on the brink prior in the run up to that. It was not going to take much for it to shoot back up. But I think no, you're completely right. The biggest thing about this all is, and this is the biggest condemnation of Boris Johnson, is everyone said that the best thing about him was he knew how to read a room, and he knew how to cheer people up, and he knew how to make people feel optimistic and hopeful. And he could always find the levity in a situation and make people smile. Well, I'm sorry, he is completely, all through this pandemic, this is not the first time he's done it. What he's done is effectively what the world's worst employee does. So, you know, when you're an employee for a company, you know, one of the buzz phrases that they use is under-promise and over-deliver. Now, all the way through this pandemic, what is the one thing that he's continually repeated all the time? He promises the moon, and then he has to backtrack, and then he's made to look stupid and people get angry. Now, this is the biggest one of all. I mean, he's done things in the past. We'll get rid of this in 12 weeks. You know, we'll take it on the chin. We're working towards having normality by Christmas. But this was unforgivable, and we've said it in a previous show. You didn't have to be brains of Britain to predict this. Like, you saw the patterns every time.
Yeah.
every time we loosen the restrictions, people clearly couldn't contain themselves and they weren't distancing properly. And again, I'm not going to foist the blame onto people. Yes, we know that there's a minority of complete window lickers who either believe in these demented conspiracy theories or are just really, really selfish. But other people, you know, their mental health suffering, they're trying to do the right thing. You know, now and again they might infringe the rules a little bit without meaning to hurt people. But when you get Johnson with a really predictable situation, I mean, the medical people told us in the summer, this virus thrives in the winter because everyone's indoors, they're closer together. You know, the summer is not so bad, but we have to prepare for the winter. And then he's saying, like, wasn't it October he said it? Was it October or the beginning of November where he said you'd be allowed 5 days over Christmas? Like,
I
what
thought it
is
was November.
that far in advance?
Short-sighted and naive to. I just don't understand. So, I mean, one thing you would say then is to try. I mean, if you're genuinely trying to understand, so he's not listening to the epidemiologists, the virologists, any of the medical professionals, his medical advisors or whatever. Who is he listening to then? What I mean is, who has said you're going to need to do something here, Boris? I think you need to give him some leeway at Christmas. We're going to have to come up with something. Or how about that? Like, if he's not listening to those people,
can I make a
suggestion?
suggestion?
And who is he listening to?
Well, let me make a suggestion. You can tell me I'm talking crap, but this you know what we think about Occam's razor, where if you slice away all the bullshit and you come up to the most rational explanation with the least the least sort of speculative out there theories to get to it. So to me, the most obvious scenario is what's happened is Johnson is effectively, not exclusively, but effectively only really listening to the lockdown skeptics. And the reason I say that is because I think these are the same type of people who are the ones who are going for no deal. Now, these are the people who are most responsible for making him prime minister. So I don't know whether there's a thing of loyalty there or whether he's genuinely scared that they'll try and bring him down if he doesn't obey them. But to me, I think he's listened to them because every time there's a new restriction, they come out, oh, there should have been a vote on this. Oh, it's ridiculous. The cure's worse than the disease. You know, muttering and grumbling. And I honestly think they're in his ear all the time. And he thought 5 days over Christmas is going to shut them up because Christmas is wonderful and we can get everyone spending and have a big, nice Christmas celebration. Then even if we have to lock down after, it will kind of shut them up for a while. Do you know what I mean? That's who I think he's listened to, and it's a combination of them and probably someone else saying in his ear, Boris, this isn't going to go down very well. You know, these new restrictions, particularly around Christmas, we've got to give something positive to people because your polling is really, really plummeting. And to me, that's what he's heard. So he's heard his no deal weirdos who are anti any kind of lockdown, who he thinks can bring him down. And then he's also listening to people go, Boris, your personal ratings, mate, you've got to do something to kind of cheer people up and make them root for you again.
Okay, well maybe that's the case then, but then why has he gone back on it?
The reason he's gone back on it is effectively because he's been told that hospitals will collapse. I think that's what he's been told.
What I mean is, did not have the foresight to see that could be the case anyway.
Apparently not. He doesn't seem to learn from any mistake he makes, though, does he? Because he's done this before. Mike,
I just think it's incredibly.
I was thinking about this
short-sighted and naive.
I know, but I was thinking about this earlier, right? Now, I tried to put myself in the head, not of Boris Johnson, because he wants to be in that head, but Prime Minister, right? I was imagining I was Prime Minister, and I think maybe we sometimes give them too much credit, as in their ability.
Really? Oh, right.
No, not by their actions, by their ability. So if you see someone as Prime Minister, right? So for instance, I'm kind of a minor politics nerd. I know other people who read a lot more than me about theory and all the kind of underlying things that happen all the time in government and committees and everything, right? So there's different levels, but there are a lot of people who are really interested in politics and understand everything that goes on all the time. Now, I think we assume that the Prime Minister has that same knowledge, and I don't think he does. I genuinely don't think he does. I think Boris Johnson has the knowledge of probably the Conservative Party generally, but I think he's almost entirely reliant on his advisors to tell him what's going on. I don't think he grasps all the different areas that are affected by different things.
No,
I'm not,
no,
I'm not saying he's
I
stupid. Do you know what I mean?
no, I wouldn't. I wouldn't expect any prime minister to be an expert on everything. Certainly, I wouldn't expect any prime minister to be ready and prepared for a global pandemic, to
Mhm.
be a medical expert or anything like that. Definitely not. But you would expect them to have at least the same amount of common sense as the average guy on the street.
Okay, so applying that, there's only two possible explanations, isn't there? Number one, Boris is not smart enough to understand this, which I don't think is very likely. Or number two, he's too fucking lazy. I think it's almost certainly number two. I don't think he spends any time really thinking about really hard decisions. I think he has a vague idea of what's going on. His advisors tell him something. He reads newspaper headlines, and to me, that's the level of his knowledge about what's going on. And when people give him this information, it just seems to come as a surprise to him all the time. I mean, that's the only way I can explain it, because he's not a stupid man. He's not nearly as smart as he thinks he is, but he's not stupid.
It would explain why he doesn't seem to be able to actually answer any questions.
Yeah, that as well. So
But that's just generally being a politician, isn't it? Like,
it is. I think he's taken it to new levels, but it's been a politician since probably Thatcher's era. Okay, Mike. So basically, Boris promised 5 days over Christmas. He's now cancelled that for anyone in tier 4. So anyone who lives in tier 4, unless they are caring for someone in dire need or they are in support bubbles where they're living on their own, they are not allowed to visit anyone over Christmas. They must spend it in their own household in tier 4. Fortunately, me and Mike are sitting pretty because we're in tier 2 at the moment. Can you see how happy we are that we're in tier 2? I presume we will be in tier 4 probably just after Christmas, so it's the reprieve.
much like everyone else.
Yeah, don't worry, the reprieve won't be for too long. And by the way, to be honest, it'd be nice to see, not going crazy, but to see the brothers' family, just one of the household on Christmas Day only. So yeah, that'll be nice. But like I say, we'll pay for it because we'll be in tier 4. No doubt the entire country will be in lockdown by January, and that will come in quite handy for the government because we'll most likely have a no-deal Brexit, and all of the horrendous fallout from that might be able to be camouflaged because people will not be allowed outside their houses, particularly in groups. So that's Boris the Grinch. So that's what he's done, and that's obviously why even people who were once on his side are now very, very angry with him for good reason. And again, I should stress this: me and Mike have said it before that we thought it was a ridiculous idea to allow people to mix over 5 days over Christmas, and it was a recipe for disaster. So we saw that coming. I don't think me and Mike necessarily disagree with tier 4. What we're angry about, which is what everyone else is angry about, and also very cynical about, because let me put this to you, Mike. When Johnson said 5 days, and people with half a brain were like, really? Five days with all the deaths and okay, cool. And then a couple of weeks went by and it's like, oh, cool, we got Christmas to look forward to. And people start making their plans and they book their trains and they get all their presents and they start getting their Christmas dinner ready for all the family coming over. and then it's taken away with a week to go. My cynical head would suggest, did Boris Johnson leave it that, well, sorry, there's two things. So number one is a person who's maybe not politically attuned would say, did Boris Johnson leave it so late because he just wanted everyone to spend a lot of money to try and resurrect the economy before he shat on everyone's dreams of meeting the family for Christmas? That might be someone's opinion who maybe doesn't think too much on the political level, but just on a logical level. So I'd maybe go with that a little bit. But I saw something in the newspaper that suddenly made a lot more sense, which is Boris Johnson was afraid of cancelling Christmas before Parliament broke up because it meant that his backbenchers wouldn't raise merry hell, criticise him in Parliament, force a vote on the issue, basically completely send him to the cleaners. Now, that plugs into what we know about Boris Johnson's character, which is that he doesn't enjoy confrontation. Now, what would you say, Mike? Do you think it's a combination of both, or
I was going to say that I think that actually maybe there's scope for both to be true on some scale. I feel like both make sense.
They're both plausible
to a degree. Yeah, they're both plausible. I just think that he's clearly he is a very well educated and, objectively speaking, intelligent man. He doesn't come across that way, he doesn't look that way or whatever, but he is. That you can say what you like about him, those are the facts. He is. But he's just been incredibly stupid, I think. I get it. There's a lot of fucking pressure. He's probably getting pulled left, right, and centre. Oh, make sure you do this. This is ridiculous. I don't like this, Boris. Boris, you should do this. This is what, like, we're saying. There's probably a lot of that, and we've said it 1,000 times. I wouldn't want his fucking job. I mean, I do fancy myself for it, actually.
Yeah, I was going to say, what are you talking about?
Now, it's like going into a football team, isn't it? It's just been decimated, just been relegated twice, and then you're the manager. It's like, well, he gets sacked, and then you come in, and well, I can't do any fucking worse. I mean,
yeah, that's true. Yeah.
If I do a terrible job, the trend stays the same. Well, okay, I didn't fix it, but I didn't fuck it up either.
Very true. Yeah.
But yeah, no, it's a difficult job. But
Mike, hang on. Let me throw something else in then.
Go on.
What if I said to you, do you think this is Johnson missing Dominic Cummings' influence?
How so?
So there were a lot of people, and I people do overstate these things, but there were a lot of people who thought that Johnson was someone who had a certain skill set, and the skill set definitely wasn't reading his briefs, being focused, being diligent and hardworking. His was more the showmanship and the presentation and whatever. And what they were saying was the person who was book smart and reveled in the detail and other unpleasant things, Dominic Cummings. So effectively, Dominic Cummings was the raven sat on his shoulder, like feeding him information. This is what we're going to do. This is what we're going to do. And then Johnson would sort of nod along, and go, okay, yeah, I can say it like this. I can present it like this. Okay, yeah, no, that's good. Do you think now that the raven's been chased away, do you think that's part of it? That Johnson is having now to learn to focus and kind of come to his own kind of decisions? I don't know. Or is that kind of just a little bit?
I think maybe, I feel a bit strange saying it, I think maybe you're doing him a little bit of a disservice there, but I don't. Maybe he's got a, maybe there's a little bit of that, but I just can't see. I agree with what you're saying though. I think that, to be fair, like a lot of leaders or rulers or whatever you have around, like, all seem to be more just figureheads, aren't they? They're just the person that you put there to win the vote.
No, that's
They're
very
not.
true.
Do you know what I mean? They're just the people. They're just the person that you go and like, right, okay, this person can get its votes. It's not that they're necessarily the best person for the job, or that they are fantastic politicians, or they have particular skill sets that are crucial to the running of the country. They're just the person that can get you the votes, or that you think can get you the votes.
Mike, that's a very pertinent point. I think that's one of the most incisive things you've said, because I think if you look at particular people, David Cameron being the classic example, I don't think he had any particular skill set, and I mean history will judge him really harshly for what he did in office. But like you say, he was there because he fitted a certain mould that they thought people would vote for. He looked at home in a suit. He looked like he meant business, but he was nice as well. He was quite liberal, you know. He liked the gays. He wasn't a hang 'em and flog 'em kind of character. So and he was young, so he didn't fit the stereotypes of the stuffy old Tory. So I definitely think you're right. And if you look at what's happening in the Labour Party, double down, because if you look at Starmer, I'm not sure he believes in anything. Whereas Corbyn, you knew exactly what he believed in, but people looked at him and for whatever reason, usually what they read in the press, but other things as well, he didn't fit the bill for what they thought was a leader. And yet Starmer, despite not believing in anything apparently, people look at him and go, oh yeah, he looks professional, he looks good in a suit. And so I think you're right, there's definitely an element of, you don't want an ideologue, or rather you don't want anyone who's passionately principled anymore. You literally just want someone to look good when they're on TV, to say, oh, this is the leader, why don't you vote for them?
Yeah, they're just the figurehead that you use to get yourself into power.
Very true. Okay. By the way, when we were just mentioning everyone's favourite person, Dominic Cummings, can I just put a message out to anyone who might be listening of I don't know where he lives now. Is it the Metropolitan Constabulary, or? But I'm just going to say to the police, keep a fucking eye out on the roads for Dominic Cummings over Christmas, because we know if there's one fucking person who is just going to disregard the lockdown rules entirely, it's that cunt. So please, I just, just.
It's hard to argue with that. Yeah.
Okay.
You've been warned.
Yes, please keep an eye out, please, for his vehicle. So the other massive news. I mean, this is honestly, Mike, I can't broadcast how massive this news is, even if people don't feel like they're affected right now, because obviously, no deal Brexit is on the way, which will be even bigger. But this weekend, after Boris ruined Christmas for a lot of people, we had the news of a European blockade of UK freight. I mean, France and I think 40 countries in total are banning anyone from the United Kingdom travelling there at any time from now until they presumably decide to lift it. And France has completely closed its border to the UK for freight as well. So they're saying, not only are we not allowing people, we're not allowing deliveries. And obviously that's then going to affect coming the other way as well, where they're potentially telling people don't go to the UK, presumably, because otherwise they'll have to come back. So, I mean, this is huge, because obviously I know it comes as a surprise to Dominic Raab, but all of our food pretty much comes through Dover Calais. And, they were showing, there was a helicopter thing of like the tailbacks already, like 5 to 20 miles, I think, of tailbacks of lorries. Now,
you couldn't fucking write it, could you?
it's crisis over catastrophe. And I remember I wrote something on social media that I think we need to be prepared that this next decade, because if you say we've officially started the next decade on January the 1st, I know technically that's probably not true, but let's just say it is, because it's a marker. Although you could argue it started this year anyway. But I think the 20s is going to be known as a decade of rolling crises. I don't want to make people upset, but I just think we're going to see one crisis after another, whether it's economic, whether it's climate related. We've just done so many things wrong as a country and as a species that the chickens are going to come home to roost like never before this decade. So unfortunately, this is something we're really going to have to get used to and dig in. But yeah, Mike,
well, I saw you mentioned you put a post on social media. Did you something about that?
That's right. Yeah.
I'll check it out. I did see something else on social media though. Was it Mad Max set in 2021?
I don't remember, but you're probably right.
Yeah. So
well, there you go. That's optimism. So for anyone in Late Night Large world, get working on your Doom buggies and your your sort of cyberpunk and steampunk get up. And the preppers. You'll finally get the respect you deserve for preparing for this moment. But I mean, Mike, what do you think? Can we really overstate this, like a European blockade? I know technically at the moment it's only 48 hours, but that is fucking huge. That is a really big story.
It is fucking massive, and you say at the minute it's 48 hours. Is that everywhere?
No, that's initially for France. The travel ban, I don't know how long it's for at the moment. Yeah,
I mean it's massive. It's just a prelude though to what's to come. Well, I mean, hopefully I'm wrong. I can't see it, but hopefully I'm wrong. And maybe it's a good thing. You were on about trying to provide a silver lining. Maybe it's a good thing. It enables us to prepare for what's to come. A little taste.
Prelude.
I don't know. I don't know how to sugarcoat that one, to be honest. It is pretty huge. Obviously there are things coming up in the new year that could have just as bad, if not worse, effect on that sort of thing, as we know. I won't mention it because I'll set you off again. But it's not good. It's not good, is it? But do you know what? You can't. Who do you blame? Do you know what I mean? It's not like.
Okay. Sorry. No, let me jump in. So, on the surface of what you said, I completely agree. We can't do much about a blockade because of a pandemic, obviously. But hear this narrative. You might not agree with it. I'm not saying I 100% agree with it, but I've heard this said, and I'm inclined to think that this is a reasonable thing to think. So,
grow on.
Let me throw this at you. Okay. Let me first of all give it a little bit of foreshadowing. So, Boris Johnson, what is one of the things he's famous for cocking up on in terms of having a loose tongue? Getting Nazanin Zaghari Ratcliffe arrested in Iran. So he made a thoughtless speech in the House of Commons where he suggested, with no evidence, he just speculated that she was teaching journalism in Iran. And the Iranian government, who, by the way, I'm in no way saying the Iranian government is like logical in doing this, but what do you not do when you have a tyrannical government is set them off with information that you don't know to be true. So Johnson, by saying that, set the Iranian government off, and they literally used his speech in Hansard to justify keeping her in prison and saying this woman is a subversive, she's trying to gather people to overthrow the regime. And Johnson never apologized for that, getting a British citizen jailed as foreign secretary as well. And as foreign secretary, he didn't think it was his job to get her released. And she's still in prison. People treat this as a bit of a joke because, Bojo, he makes these silly errors. It's like, mate, if your wife was stuck in a foreign prison away from her children, let alone her husband, would you not like want to fucking kill Boris Johnson right now? I mean, I get that people make mistakes and he makes more than most, but the bottom line is you front up and you say, listen, I'll sort this out. Let me get over. I'll talk to the people in Iran. I'll do what's necessary to get her released and make up for my mistake. No, because that's not what he does. He makes mistakes and then he shrugs off, oh, not my fault. So what I'm saying is that's what he has in his locker. So what if I was to say to you, Mike, that the major reason for the blockade from the French was hysteria about this new strain. And then when we look at the reality, the new strain has been known about since apparently September. So that was when it was noticed originally. This is in the public records. It was noticed originally in September. And then you come to the conclusion of, well, why did Bozza just come up with it the last sort of couple of weeks or so?
To justify tier 4.
And yeah, then you put your cynical hat on and go, to justify cancelling Christmas. Oh, it's not my fault that everything went out of control. It was a new strain that we couldn't foresee, even though we did foresee it. And I'm lying to you. But
yeah,
what I mean is, if that was around since September, and it was mentioned in September and said, listen, everyone, we have to be careful, the argument is none of this happened. But because Johnson waits until right in the middle of December before Christmas and says, oh, this new strain is out of control, and it's not good, and we're sorry that this has happened, and nobody wants to cancel Christmas, but this new strain is, France hears that and is like, holy shit, there's a new strain that's actually cancelled Christmas. Right, we can't have them travelling over here. We're not having that new strain over here. And that's why this has happened. I mean, what do you think of that? I mean, I'm not saying it's 100% his fault, but do you not think that this blockade has mainly been caused again by his loose tongue?
Yeah, well, lack of kind of, again, not thought about the consequences.
Yes.
Not thought about the consequence of actions. Right, what do we need to do? Oh, that's shit. How do we spin that so that it doesn't look as bad on us? How can we play it so it's not our fault? Oh, yeah, there was a new strain. Was there a new strain? Is it new? Or is it 3 months old? Don't know, but okay, cool. There's a new strain. Oh, guys, I know we said this and you could go here and do that, but there's a new strain. So, sorry. And here's tier 4 and Christmas is cancelled. Sorry, guys. It's one of those. What can you do? And then the next minute, oh fuck, what did I say? Everyone's like fucking blockaded the ports. Like no one's oops.
Yeah.
Silly me.
Whoopsie doodle. It's does it but you know what I mean? It reminds you of the Nazanin Zaghari Ratcliffe situation. It seems like that again to me. It's like, oh, what have I said? Oh, I didn't say that. It's not my fault. Kind of thing. So yeah, okay, we're kind of on the same page there. So Mike, just to I thought, because obviously I'm vehemently opposed to Johnson, as you obviously lampoon me for, and you're not his biggest fan after the way he's behaved in government. But do you know who is always on his side, or so we think, is the right-wing press. Now, just to show how unpopular he is after stealing Christmas, listen to how some of the right-wing papers, who are normally absolutely gushing with praise for Johnson, no matter what he does wrong, these are the kind of things. So this is some of the headlines and articles that were printed in some of the right-wing papers. So the Daily Mail had a headline, "Does the Prime Minister have any idea what he's doing?" Described him as the captain of a rudderless ship being controlled by the currents rather than steering a steady course. The Daily Telegraph, "This dismal pattern of promising one thing and delivering another is hardly designed to reinforce public faith and trust in the way this crisis is being handled."
Yeah.
The Times calls it the mother of all U-turns. The Sun, which, I mean, sometimes I I think, should we even quote it? Is it even a newspaper? But the Sun,
Do it anyway.
yeah, the Sun, which still manages to get its tongue halfway up his arsehole, but it says, no doubt Boris Johnson has made a pig's ear of things recently, and then the rest of the time it kind of tries to apologise for him, but then kind of say, we're not happy with what he's doing. So these are the papers that are, like I say, are literally, you have to surgically remove their tongues from his arsehole, and they're really laying into him. So this has made him hugely unpopular with vast swathes of his previous supporters. So we shouldn't underestimate how much of a damaging incident this is. You could argue the only thing comparable was the Dominic Cummings affair in terms of damaging public opinion of Johnson in particular. Do you think?
Yeah, agreed.
Anyway, and finally, I thought for a more light-hearted way to end, because it does seem all doom and gloom, but the light-hearted way we were going to end, Mike, is I told you about this, but if you want a bit of a chuckle and maybe chuck some money in, I'm not sure if it's going to charity or not, but there's a I should just say there's some foul language coming up, so please cover your ears if you don't like that kind of thing. But there's a punk band called the Cunts, spelt with a K. So the Cunts with a K, and they've released a song that is, I believe, as of yesterday, number 2 in the iTunes charts, called "Boris Johnson is a fucking cunt." So I know in times like this, it's easy to feel powerless and like you've got nowhere to turn to express your anger and frustration and despair. But if you've got a spare 75p or 99p, I don't know how much it is, maybe pop on over to the iTunes store and see if you can get that song up to number 1, because that would be a good way to communicate how we feel about this particular Grinchy act. I don't know, so I'm just throwing it out there.
Well, I think that, and this is something you mentioned actually, and this highlights it. Boris has done a fantastic job of uniting the people against him, hasn't he? You mentioned it, I think. It's what he's there for, to unite the people and gain their collective buy-in to one particular way of thinking. Just unfortunately, that particular way of thinking is that he's a cunt, apparently. So job done, I guess, in a way. But,
yeah. I think, I think out of all the episodes we've done so far, Mike, other than the Dominic Cummings affair potentially, although maybe some people just didn't tune into that, but other than that, this is possibly the one episode we've done where we both completely agree with the strength of feeling, and I think anyone watching will just be like, fuck yeah, he's a fucking cunt, what an arsehole, fucking hate him. Now, whether those people will go back to, Boris is doing his best 2 weeks' time, we don't know. But the bottom line is, I'm not saying this is entirely fair, because he's got some very hard decisions, and you know me, I'm not very fair on him. But to be fair, this was a decision that needed to be taken. It's just the way that he's done it has just made him appear like an absolute cunt. And you know what they say about politics? It's not about the policies, it's about the optics. It's not about whether the policies help the people, it's about whether the way you present it or the way they come across communicates to people that it's a good policy. And the optics of this are fucking awful for Johnson. And I would be surprised if his approval ratings are not in the toilet within a few days. And of course, then we've got the wonderful gift next year of no deal Brexit, which will make this blockade look like just a dress rehearsal for the chaos to come. So what we're trying to say, people, is try and have a Merry Christmas.
Yeah, Merry fucking Christmas, folks.
Yeah, let's remember what's important at Christmas, because hope is important, but in terms of what's important, if you're on your own this Christmas, first of all, you don't have to entirely be on your own because you're allowed support bubbles. But if you're on your own with your family, don't do anything that's too contentious. So, there's probably going to be tension there already because, mum can't see her mum, dad can't go down the pub. So there might be some unresolved tension brewing in the house. Don't have contentious arguments with people. Don't bring up subjects that are likely to kind of, bring out sore spots. Keep it nice and fluffy. Watch some feel-good films. Get playing some board games. Nothing too competitive like Monopoly or something. Eat lots of food. Fall asleep in front of the TV. Just remember that your family are ultimately one of the most important things about your entire life, and you should appreciate them, even if you're just forced to be in the same room with them entirely for a particular period of time. They brought you into the world, they raised you, etc. So let's enjoy the time with our special people. Anything to add, Mike? That's what I got, really.
Unless of course this means you can't go and see your special people.
Yes, I know, and I also thought, and unless you're trapped in an abusive household, which is obviously really shit as well, there are people who can help. By all means, joking aside, there are still domestic refuge places where you can get away. By all means, ring the Samaritans, please, if things start to get really on top of you. Remember, you're not being over the top now. I mean, realistically, no one is over the top because it's about your own emotions. But right now, we are in a really, really shit situation. Maybe it will get better. It's probably not going to get a lot better anytime soon. So knowing that, there's a lot of people in the same basket. So you are not a failure to feel really shit. So by all means, Samaritans, ring a friend. Just because you can't see your family and friends somewhere else, get on a Zoom call, get on FaceTime, play games and just do stupid shit with them. Don't sort of sit alone and have this feeling festering, because it is a shit time, but we can get through this, can't we, Mike?
Yes, we can get through it.
And
About as positive as I can be.
Yeah, and of course the other thing to note as well is, in terms of entertainment, get onto Spotify, Apple Podcasts. There's plenty of Late Night Large podcasts you can listen to where we talk absolute shit on a range of subjects. We riff on everything. It's comically good. And also, you might want to check out A Contemporary Christmas Carol on Dennington on Air, which was written and produced by me. So that's an alternative take on A Christmas Carol. So I'm just going to plug that now as well. So yeah, do find that. Dennington on Air. Anything to add, Mike, before we say goodbye for the festive season?
Not really, other than the general plugging, which I think you covered this time. Like, subscribe, etc. No, other than just have a very merry Christmas. And do the best you can to stay as positive as you can. Eat lots of food. Drink lots of drink.
Get the Die Hard.
Add a couple of inches onto your waistline. Fuck it, you've earned it. Yeah, and like you said, fall asleep in front of the telly, watching some shit Christmas film. Pissed, stuffed, bloated, and that's what Christmas is about.
Yeah, spending Boxing Day on the shit. But yeah, get on the Die Hard trilogy.
Oh yeah, come on.
You know what to do. Well, that's it. 2020 is almost over. This godforsaken year is almost over. We're looking forward to an equally terrible 2021. But please have a good Christmas. Leave a comment if you like. Subscribe to Late Night Large. We're there for you any time of the year. And we will probably see you just before the end of the year. But in the meantime, Merry Christmas, people, and good night.